So, as we all know, right now we are living in not exactly the best situation we've ever been in, economically, um, you know, uh, constitutionally, um, physically, mentally, emotionally. As a nation, we are kind of screwed up right now. We got maniacs running around with guns, people getting killed because they don't have, they aren't prepared to defend themselves. They're pretty much helpless, victims at this point in time because of the fact that these criminals, despite of how crazy they are, they know what they're doing. They know that they can walk into a gun-free zone where guns aren't supposed to be and rack up a high kill count. And it's ridiculous for the government and for people to think that by outlawing guns and making less guns prevalent in the community, it's ridiculous for them to think that's going to solve the problem. Criminals are called criminals for a reason. They don't follow the law. So what you have to be prepared to do is defend yourself and not expect the police to defend you. Their response time is going to be astronomically larger than yours when you are dropped into a situation like that, if you are ever dropped into a situation like that. Also, they aren't required to protect us. It is not. Look it up. They are not. That is not what they're required to do. Okay? And for the government to also think that guns are the problem, that's ridiculous. Guns are not the problem. Magazines are not the problem. It is the criminal. And if you outlaw them to the law-abiding citizen, the criminal still will not care, and he will still get his hands on whatever he wants to. Period. And that's why he's called a criminal. Because he doesn't follow the law. At all. And I don't see for there to be any reason that I, a law-abiding citizen who has to pass a background check and has to fill out paperwork and, puts out the money for the guns that I want, I don't see why I should all of a sudden not be allowed to own a certain gun because some criminal used it to harm innocent people who had no way of defending themselves. Alright? So on that note, be prepared to defend yourself. Have a bug-out bag. Have a weapon. Any sort of weapon. Any criminal, honestly, any one of these people, if they would have felt threatened at any point in time, I believe that they would have stopped. They all, especially this last guy in Connecticut. Obviously, he killed himself at the end of the shooting. The Virginia Tech shooter killed himself at the end of the shooting. Obviously, they went in there planning to die. So at any point in time, if they would have felt threatened, I believe they would have put the gun to their head a lot sooner. So even something like a knife, or, just the most unconventional thing, a baseball bat, whatever. I mean, okay, baseball bat's a bad illustration, but I believe that you need to be prepared to defend yourself and your family and anyone around you that is not capable of defending themselves at that time. So, in my opinion, what you need is a bug-out bag. And in that bug-out bag, you need all your means for survival. Fire, shelter, food. Whatever you feel is essential for you to survive, that's what you need. Now, in mine, I have fire starters, I have lighters, I have matches, I have lint, I have many different things for me to be capable of starting a fire. Obviously, I also, wear glasses, so I have a year's worth of contacts in mine. I also, knowing that the world may end or collapse or whatever, you might get kind of bored sometimes. I have decks of playing cards in my bug out bag. Um, in case I'm, by a creek or something, not only is it a way to burn up time, it can be a food source. I have fishing equipment. Living in Minnesota, clearly it does get cold at times. I have cold weather equipment. I also have multiple head coverings, bandanas, um, you know, cleaning cloths, stuff like that. Because I also have weapons that I will be using at, when this kind of thing happens. Um, Shamags are a wonderful thing to have. Have tons of different uses. Just they're inexpensive. You can get a bunch of them in multiple different colors, and they have tons of different uses. Knives. Knives are clearly a good thing to have, and I have multiple different knives. Um, rescue knives for if you're trapped in a vehicle. Just your standard pocket knives, boot knives, fighting knives, K-bars, daggers, stuff like that. Machetes. You never know when you might be out in the middle of nowhere and gotta chop up some wood or bushwhack, whatever. Machete, good thing to have. Shovel, also a very good thing to have. Whether you gotta dig a trench to sleep in, or you're digging a fire pit, or a hole to poop in, whatever. Flashlight. Have a couple different ones. Good quality flashlights, always a good thing to have. There's another knife. A good multi-tool, wonderful thing to have. A medical kit. Okay, how many of those people, if there would have been anyone in that school who had known, minor first aid, how many of those children could have possibly been saved if the gunner would have been, shot down or, incapacitated earlier? How many of those kids possibly could have been saved just by somebody knowing minor first aid? Having a medical kit with can be a very good thing. But then there's also the weapons. And whether they're service weapons or full-size weapons or hunting weapons, whatever situation you're in. And I have pretty much one for everything. Here's my little 380. Can fit in like any one of my pockets that I'm wearing right now, and nobody would know I have it on me. Nobody. And very capable of putting down any sort of threat. But then I also have my 1911. One of the most comfortable guns to shoot, the most accurate, and it shoots a 45 ACP. There's not a whole lot that stands up to the 45 ACP. Animal-wise, human-wise, even body armor at close range, 45 ACP is going to cause so much internal damage, it's not going to matter. And because it is the gun that won the West and has been a fighting gun for many, many years, obviously killed many, many people. Single action, Ruger, revolver, in 45 Colt, or 45 ACP. Now, not only is that a gun that I have a common caliber now, I have two common calibers, and that's why it's one of my survival guns and combat guns, because I also have this gun, which is a Rossi R92 in 45 Colt. This gun will put a smack down on just about anything. That 45 Colt traveling out of this Plus the fact that with iron sights I can shoot sub 2-inch groups at 100 yards. Pretty awesome gun. And because I don't have an assault rifle right now, I don't have an AR, I don't have an AK, I don't have an FAL, I don't have anything like that. This is the gun I'm going to go to because I can fire it quickly and accurately, and the bullet coming out of this, hitting whatever it's hitting, is going to stop it. And for what it doesn't stop, or for what gets closer, Mossberg 500. Combat length shotgun. 5+1 in the tube. Got the heat shield on it. And the heat shield definitely works. I've shot an entire box of shells out of this and could still touch the barrel without any issues. And, you know, shotgun, in my opinion, is always going to be the best survival weapon. It is also one of the most devastating weapons you can own. Plus, that sound alone at times will be enough to put a criminal or anyone threatening you just stop dead in their tracks. Plus, you have close range, medium range, and long range capability. Period. Whether you're hunting game or whether you're having to defend yourself, you have everything you need right here. So in my opinion, honestly, people need to be prepared for any situation, and they need to stop depending so much on everyone else and everything else. This is not, we do not live in a world where you can just go through the motions and just live day by day without even trying. You can't. You have to put something into your life to do something, you know, and just going through the motions and expecting to be handed everything and expecting to just be safe and, you know, and not have to be aware of anything at all. That's ridiculous. You know, people need to understand what's going on, and they need to stop just believing everything that's put out in front of them, and they need to actually look at what's going on and look at the underlying causes instead of just believing everything that they're being just fed, just dumped on them like garbage, just fed all this garbage down their throat. They need to stop. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, well, you know, and honestly, that's just kind of my rant on this whole thing, is people need to stop and be prepared and take care of themselves and know how to and know what they need to.